welcome to Rise and Shine, Friday's edition. Today is an important day in Christendom. It marks the death and burial of Christ, and the day after tomorrow, the resurrection of Christ. And so in the spirit of the observance of the day, we ask that the central purpose of the day be made manifest in our collective consciousness. A warm welcome to a lovely edition of Rise and Shine this lovely Friday. How do we call it? Easter Friday. Yep, that's it. And so straight away we'll be reviewing the papers for today, and directly after that we will continue with the debate for the removal of fuel subsidy, the drawbacks as well as the benefits of removal of fuel subsidy. And to this edition of the program, it's going to be the political perspective to this great debate. That will be that this morning. And so we'll begin with review of the papers, beginning with Vanguard. Atiku urges Nigerians to remember security personnel less privileged. End of my presidency. Trump reacts to special council appointments. Top court paves way for Ugandan president's sixth term bid. Buhari approves Kokori's replacement in Gigi. Serap writes CCB seeks details of asset declarations of president's governance since 1999. This day is our next review. NLC hails new minimum wage act. 2 killed, vehicles destroyed, and tanker fire in Ibadan. NOUN to benefit from NCC's education grants. Killing of innocent Nigerians by policemen won't be tolerated, says AIG. Daily Trust has the following headlines. Concerned Bono citizens reaffirm support for Ndume. Buhari will do better during second term. That's coming from a group. Ogun Abiodun gives condition for implementing the Moson's projects. Jega blames lecturers for compromising integrity of 2019 polls. Adewale proclaims South Lagos PDP chair for second time. From the Punch, we've got the following headlines. Nigeria needs 130 billion naira annual investment in seed production. Leadership. No decision yet, says PDP National Working Committee meets lawmakers elect fighting. Malnutrition must be priority in Nigeria. Buhari not against my ambition to be Senate President. That's coming from Ndume. The Guardian is next. Onogain rejects CCT's judgment, files notice of appeal. Court sacks Buhari's former aide as House of Reps member-elect. I have no link with Malabu oil deal, Senator Obiora. Coalition seeks discriminalization of petty offences in Nigeria. Holiday Islands in shock after bus crash kills 29 German tourists. So the Daily Independent, defection, Saraki Dogara may be removed before tenure expiration. Minimum wage, Saraki congratulates workers, silence on Buhari. Ibadan fuel tanker fire claims 2 lives, 4 vehicles. A must bring corrupt public officers to face justice. Moving over to the Premium Times, Nigerian workers can sue employers who pay less than 30,000 naira minimum wage. That's coming from the presidency. Police confirm death of missing Delta Poly contractor. Former judge Ophelia Jumagobia rearranged, granted 10 million naira bail. Nigerians react to CCT judgments on Onogoe. Leadership is next. EIRS commences aggressive tax enforcement exercise. Good Friday, Obaseki urges surplus service sacrifice. Insecurity. Retrain, rebrand tricycles, motorcycle operators, and Meiji urges operators. Lagos vows to apprehend recalcitrant motorists. Wike seeks legislative backing for LG chairman's suspension. And finally, from the Nation newspaper, Sanwo-Olu unveils inauguration committee ahead of swearing in. Senate presidency, Lawan's choice, majority group, majority decision. That's what a group is saying. Gunmen attack Adamawa community, killed 4. 60 million Nigerians are illiterate, says Permanent Secretary. And finally, court orders INEC to withdraw Buhari's X8 certificate of return. That was review of the papers for this morning as compiled by Valerie Aya. Many thanks indeed. It's come up to 10 minutes past 7. We will take a musical break. Right after, we'll get back to the show this morning proper, which is on the debate, the continuation of the debate about fuel subsidy removal, the political perspective to this burning issue in our politics. Stay with us. Minutes past 7. You welcome back to the show proper this lovely Friday morning. The debate, continuation of the debate, fuel subsidy removal, the political perspective to it. The attempt this morning, given that it is a continuation of the focus yesterday, will be to determine the extent to which fuel subsidy is political, the extent to which it is pure corruption and fraud, and then distance them from the economic and moral considerations of this burning issue. Yesterday, I had the singular honor of having Dr. Michael Barr of the Department of Economics, Niger Delta University, and Mr. Warmate DQ, Director General, Yenagoa Chamber of Commerce and Industry, debate for and against fuel subsidy removal. To a DQ, removal of fuel subsidy is a decision whose time has come, given the negative impact of subsidy on the economy, what he termed perverse subsidies, whereas Dr. Baeba holds the view that it would be an unwise decision to remove subsidy on fuel now, reason being that the economy is in bad shape and people are leading difficult lives. Indeed, it is a troubling thought that a country in dire need of development such as Nigeria is cannot afford to continue to spend 731 billion naira subsidizing fuel consumption. But that's exactly what a World Bank report on Nigeria says, that in 2018, Nigeria spent 731 billion naira in fuel subsidy, and that this sum is higher than government expenditure on health, education, infrastructure, and defense put together in 2018. Now, I'd like to give a quote from that report. And the quote is that the NNPC financial report indicates that about $2 billion equivalent to 0.6% of GDP, were deducted from the gross oil revenue prior to the transfer to the Federation account for the unbudgeted fuel subsidy. End of quote. My guest this morning is Barrister Stanley Damabide, a lawyer based in Yenagoa. He is regular. Hopefully, God bless Micah, will be joining us. If he does, we would appreciate it. If he doesn't, it's equally fine, because I understand he is having some difficulty making that decision to be here. And so, Barrister Stanley Damabide, you're welcome to the program this morning.
Thank you, and wishing you the best of Good Friday, which is today.
Exactly. And so let's begin. If the NNPC would not allow itself or its subsidy deductions to be verified and then approved by other government agencies, then it greatly undermines due process, which is a central tenet of democracy. And when democracy is sidestepped, obviously, always, the doors to corruption are wide open.
Yes, but I want to see it from this perspective. I don't think the NNPC can take the decision of not wanting to be open with its records on its own.
Okay.
Because NNPC has a master. NNPC has someone that pays it to do what it is doing. He who pays the piper will definitely dictate the tune. The fingers to be pointed should be pointed at the presidency and not the NNPC, which works for the presidency.
Okay.
So, all the arguments and debates about NNPC not being transparent is a smokescreen as far as I'm concerned. What we are saying in actual terms is that we have a presidency that knows what it is doing with the NNPC, to the point where it doesn't want, the activities there to be transparent and open for Nigerians to view and verify. It's a big shame. But let's be smarter than the picture that is being created, that it is the NNPC that is shielding its records. No. The one who pays the piper, in this case the presidency, is the one giving NNPC the required cover to do what it is doing. Let's not forget that the presidency has the ultimate power to fire and hire the NNPC boss. It all shows that it has the power to direct the NNPC to do what is right, and same will be done. And so, when you see the NNPC, so to say, act the way it's doing, just know that it is the presidency that is, shielding it, and that is acting the way it wants NNPC to be run, and that's why we're having what we're having.
Okay. Now, 731 billion naira in subsidies in 2018 alone. Would you say that this government behaved in a fiscally responsible manner, given its saintly posture?
Clearly, it didn't. And let's not forget that from history, fuel issue has always been sensitive, very sensitive. It is also a powerful political tool. It was one of the things that, raised the negative impressions that the Dr. Goodluck Jonathan government had in its dying days. The subsidy issue has huge political implications, And when he said, look, I think that we should adjust this, and he tried to do it, people felt it is time to take to the streets. And of course, we know the political implications thereafter. And now we're talking about a system that didn't even bother to listen to Nigerians, and raised the pump price of fuel, and then nothing happened. And even after that, we're still having the problems that we're having. First, failure to be transparent is indicative of something being hidden. And good things are hardly hidden. It is bad things that are hidden. Everybody wants the world and all that to see its good side. So when you're hiding something, more likely than not, it's because that thing that is being hidden isn't nice. It won't tell a good story of your activities and all that. Clearly, the presidency that came with, the campaign of wanting to change the story from the figures that have been displayed here, have not behaved responsibly. They've not behaved fairly, and it is sad, I must say.
So let's have your take at this point. What is your take? Clean the subsidy program of fraud or remove subsidy?
Clean the subsidy program of fraud. My take has always been that we must not be quick, to remove things that the common man on the streets would be benefiting from. That shouldn't, be something that we should be quick to do. Let's address the issue of corruption. Subsidy, if properly implemented, means that people like me and you, the market woman, everybody's going to feel it, will pay less for transportation and for, the like things. So, it is good. But then, you look at what is happening and you begin to wonder. I think that unless and until we address the huge payments we spend on the National Assembly, the huge payments we spend, the huge payments we make, rather, with regards to running the business of government, we cannot justify the removal of subsidy, the complete removal of subsidy. Let the public servants earn less. Let's have less vehicles in their convoys. Let's have, less spendings with some of these areas that are purely aimed at achieving political aims and not any other thing. When we address the spendings in those areas and we still don't have enough to subsidize, then we can begin to call for the complete removal of subsidy. But when people still earn billions of naira as sitting allowances and for constituency projects that you do not see on the ground. You've not addressed that, and you're saying the small thing that the people benefit from should be the one that will suffer first. That is not governance. That is not leadership, because leadership ought to be about the people. So, address those spendings before you can now talk about the complete removal of subsidy. It is without prejudice to the fact that we acknowledge that the subsidy program is creating openings for, monumental fraud and all that. We can address that if we do something like the transparency briefing that we are having in Bayelsa State. I think a lot more things can be dug out, exposed, and then people will be scared to do some terrible things. So let's be a lot more transparent with our records. I listened to MK of blessed memory the other day and I wept. And I said, he said this much? I said, look, I will run a government where we don't know how much fuel leaves this country and how much we get for it. We don't know how much this and that happens. That is the way to go. And when all these factors and elements are laid bare and we see that, look, we can't help it, then we'll see how we can, spend less with regards to the earnings of those in government, with regards to how we run government and all that. And then if that is not enough, that is when we can now begin to talk about completely removing subsidy.
But do you believe the corruption fighting credentials of this government can effectively clean that program of the fraud and corruption endemic in it?
I do not. Not out of sentiments, but out of the facts that are on ground. We've still seen, saintly cover-ups for persons with some political affiliations that, with the presidency. We're still seeing some of these things that we thought would never happen with the saints in quotes, happening. So where will the faith come from? There's been a display of crass irresponsibility with regards to, having the right attitude to fighting corruption in several other areas, including the area of politics. So if a man has displayed, an attitude that is consistent with corrupt persons in some other areas, it's very clear that same will happen. There is no faith, and we are justified in having that attitude because antecedents and activities of this system has proven that they can't do otherwise.
Okay. We'll take a commercial break. There is no commercial break? All right. In the absence of commercial break, we will continue discussing this important issue. What I would like to bring in at this point is the attitude of the people themselves. When the former President Goodluck administration took that decision, the reaction was massive and it was immediate.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, the government was only able to slash the program of the subsidy into its 50%. That was why the fuel price came down to 97 naira. And then when this government came in, they shifted it, lifted it to 145, I guess, 145 naira. And Nigerians were told in no unclear terms that subsidy has been phased out. That was the thinking. Only for us to realize through a World Bank report that shockingly subsidy got up to 731 billion naira in 2018, and yet the people are not even reacting in any way.
Wow. You see persons that have been oppressed, harassed, and so punished that it's difficult to begin to speak up. Now, let me say this, even amongst the followership, there should be some kind of leadership. And I think that's where the problem is now. It is a responsibility that some of us that think we're a little more exposed should carry and bear. We should be the ones to be blamed now. That in the circle of the followership, there should also be some kind of leadership. And people are not talking or taking action. Well, people are talking. Some of us will continue to talk.
Okay.
But we need to do a little more than the talking, to galvanize the followership, to rise up and challenge this very unfavorable and corrupt status quo with regards to the fuel subsidy issue. The deceit and hypocrisy that is playing out with regards to this issue, it's really, really saddening. Now, I had my learned senior, the DG Yenagoa Chamber of Commerce. No. I think it was the economist that said spendings from subsidy are not budgeted for. And I find out really funny, and I believe that it's illegal. There is no money belonging to the federal government that should be spent without budgetary approvals or budgetary accommodation. That is basic law. No money. No money. Except in situations of utmost emergencies, particularly related to security, which of course has to be covered. The design of our constitution does not contemplate you spending monies that were not budgeted for. And of course, that would be the gateway to fraud. So I found that very uncomfortable and somewhat untrue. And it's part of the things that we need to address as a nation. Every single penny that belongs to government must be captured by the budget for it to be spent.
I asked the last question with the thinking that subsidy is already removed. Isn't subsidy already removed? Can't Nigerians begin to question that? Do we still have subsidy? Is this debate still there for us to drag on and on? That's the reason I asked.
I don't have sufficient competence to counter the World Bank report, which says that there is still subsidy. There is still subsidy. And I think those things might have some justifications with regards to the figures that we have and all that. Now, against 145, we're buying fuel now, petrol, PMS, for 155. There's some additions already showing that they can't bear the pressure back there. Well, the figures says otherwise, so we can't, we don't have sufficient facts to say the contrary.
Okay.
Figures say there is still subsidy. But of course, the process isn't transparent enough for us to begin to attack and address it. But there is subsidy. And sadly, this is contrary to the impression that was created by this government when it hiked the fuel price, the pump price, from less than 100 naira to 145. Sad.
Let's get back to the past. In 2012, when the subsidy debate and troubles were all over the place, Farouk Lawan headed an ad hoc committee of the House of Reps that investigated the allegations of corruption and fraud in that program. But before he got himself entangled in the web of subsidy corruption, his committee came out with a report, and that report contained recommendations that Nigerians are saying are good enough to clean the subsidy of fraud. Now, obviously, that report is tainted with the fact that the man eventually was caught taking bribe. But then, do we have to throw the baby with the bathwater, or can't we go back to that report and see if the recommendations there could be used to cleaning the system of the frauds?
Well, as a matter of policy implementation, and if you want to adopt a policy to manage the system, no government is barred from using the contents of that report, from adopting a policy or creating a policy out of that document to want to run the fuel business better. But then, with regards to formal legal implementation, you just can't do that. And that is because, like you said, the one speaking against corruption is found, or was found, to be corrupt himself. And so the credibility and the legal, cleanliness upon which that report would have stood has been taken away from it. And you can't put something on nothing and expect it to stand. I think that's the picture here. Yeah, but a fair-minded system could draw from the spirits and even the letters of that document, adjust it in a way that it could form their guiding policy, and then they run the system with it. That can be done.
All right, let's right about time. Your calls are expected. If you're listening to this program and you're interested, you can call in and give your contribution to the show. The numbers to call 0816 27 0813 0908 127 8300 as well. Your thoughts and views to the SMS portal 0703 26615 69. The debate continues for subsidy removal, the political perspective to it, and the guest is Bayelsa Stanley Damabide, a lawyer based in Yenagoa. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, how was the night?
It was good. Dudu Abel.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. This is Dudu Abel, calling from Tangana, the land of snake and honey.
Yeah.
Happy Good Friday.
The same to you, sir.
Yeah. See, your guest there, I want to appreciate him. They
Thank
are
you.
talking so much. But one thing I want to chip in is this issue of subsidy. Honestly speaking, it has been lingering for too long, right from the section of the military up to the civilian rule now. It's so unfortunate, even during the military, when the president was the military president, it was the one handling the petroleum sector. And honestly speaking, during then too, there was no significant improvement. It was similar to what it's doing now. So I don't think there will be any change. I don't think there will be any change at all. And the transparent briefing, I think bring the federal government to can view into what the Bayelsa government is doing. It would have been much more better. One would have seen, at least help them out to advise them on what next to do. But such a thing is not playing out in the federal level. So I think the corruption embedded in the oil sector is so much that we cannot get out of it except by the grace of God. And I only pray that they should put in place our refinery, so that all this mess will be able to totally erase off. That is just my take this morning. Thank you very much. Happy Easter. Happy Good Friday. Thank you. God bless you.
Have a good Friday to you, Dudu Abel. We appreciate your calling in and contributing to the show. Okay, one more call and then we'll continue. Hello.
Hello, Mr. Paul. Good morning.
Good morning, Alan.
Hello.
Good morning, Alan. Yes.
Barrister Stanley Damabide, good morning.
Morning, Alan. Nice to hear your voice this morning.
Yeah, sometimes when Paul Igby, tried to introduce you, he said he would say, Barrister Stanley Damabide, Yenagoa based lawyer. And sometimes I laugh with it. He said that you don't go out of the shores of Yenagoa.
Even if I go out, I have a base. Yenagoa is my base.
That's what I mean. I always said that. I know you are a very proactive lawyer, and I know that you are a lawyer for all round. You go out of the shores of Yenagoa.
That's correct.
And I know you are doing well.
Thank you so much.
The issue of the fuel subsidy, I think it's just that the insincerity on the part of government. The fuel subsidy is an incentive, that we give it to the common man to alleviate the plight of the common man. And therefore, it is a responsibility of government to do this and also to guide against it. If the people that are, managing this subsidy are sincere, it means that this thing will go a long way to push the plight of the common average Nigerian. The issue is that this money that is being spent, is really spent for the purpose. This money, does it go to the purpose, or few individuals are receiving this money? And therefore, we are saying that a proper and proper mechanism is being given to this issue of fuel, money that is spent for this fuel, definitely it must yield, it must, come in a yield, and it must give a reflection of what is being spent for. But the problem we are looking at, the inside of the part of those that are managing it. Look, can I tell you something? Let me just tell you something. There was a time in FBC, he could not remit to bank account what it was to reflect. That was during the time of Bayelsa. Anybody could not remit to bank account. Therefore, that thing affected the payment of salary for quite a very long time. It was when the Republican line came back after for the fact they did not hold. They now went back and came back and did that fact again. What happened? It means that somebody somewhere remoting the affairs of the NPC. NPC regulated that on that fact was being, it was somebody that has failed that. And but NPC could not remit. It was somebody somewhere. So NPC, as I speak to you, it's not on their own independent to control the affairs of oil. Somebody somewhere. And this is some of the issue that is bringing the process of misappropriation and irregularity in the oil sector, in that oil sector. So all of this is good mechanism must be put in place, proactive mechanism to checkmate the movement, the micro index of this subsidy, so as to make sure that the program, start the test of time, because it is an incentive for the common man. Yeah. But misappropriation and misuse of the part of the leader is what has led to what we are going through today, the economic plasma in the system and everywhere. It's quite unfortunate. Well done, Alan Azanga is my name.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Alan. Truly appreciate your contribution to the show. But we all agree leadership ought to be about the people.
Yeah.
To some extent, we can equally agree that the fraud in the system won't be immediately taken care of. And so, given both of these, if you agree to these two, then we should consider removal of subsidy, which is ordinarily meant for the people, that is not benefiting the people in any way, should be removed. Why don't you think so?
Your suggestion is akin to saying, yes, because there is a wound on the leg, even though it will not justify amputation, instead of just treating the wound, cut off the leg. That's exactly your words, that we shouldn't throw the baby and the bathwater away together. Would get a direct opposite justification if you're saying because there is corruption in the system, we should scrap the entire system, so that the common man will suffer, and then people will should continue to earn big monies as constituency allowances and sitting allowances and all that, and the poor man, the common man who benefits from these small things, should stop benefiting.
No, if you remove the subsidy, it
Yes.
will go a long way to stopping them from getting this huge amount of money. That is my
if you
number
remove,
one
what
concern.
is subsidy? You are saying, look, subsidize what the ordinary man would have paid for petrol. So if you're saying this process of wanting to subsidize what the ordinary man would have paid for petrol is, corruption prone, and because of that I want to remove the entire process, it means you will no longer be subsidizing. If NNPC or any filling station or fuel station says, look, petrol will be going for 200,000 naira because of all that work, people will have to pay. That's what it means. But what we're saying is that
if there is a robust plan,
yes,
to put to good use all the monies that will accrue from removal of the subsidy, certainly it will go a long way to cushion the effects of
that
subsidy
will
removal.
even be much more prone to corruption. We've had it happen. You have Shopee and some other things, the Empire and all that. And you know that same is much more prone to corruption than these other ones. Or without having the likely effect that you want it to have. In this case, you don't need to know my auntie in the village, for her to benefit, because she's going to be spending less for transport and fuel related issues and all that, because of the presence of subsidy. There can't be an alternative given the way this country is being run. Highest you pick a few persons and you say, look, you're empowering them, but what you give to them is even going to be taken away by some of the expenses in these areas and all that. Let's manage subsidy properly. Let's manage it properly. And like I said, pay less, spend less for government-related businesses. And if we still don't have enough to save and manage the subsidy, then we can begin to come to the subsidy area. You can't be justifying humongous expenses in some other areas, in the areas of the running of the business of government, and then you now condemn what is happening here. Yes, you can condemn, but we want to go to the extent of saying it should be completely scrapped.
But before now, you said this government lacks the political will and the capacity to manage subsidy effectively.
It can be challenged. It can be challenged to wake up from its slumber or to correct its deceit and hypocrisy. It can be challenged, and that's the point I'm making. That, yeah, look, they know they have the capacity to change the story. They have the capacity. The willpower will come when the people's power starts speaking.
Okay.
That's the point I'm making.
Let's take a call. Hello.
Hello, good morning, Politics.
Good morning.
Yeah, this is Lawrence from Okaka.
You're welcome, Lawrence.
Yes, I think in my understanding, what it gets to say there is that if you remove a subsidy because of corruption, when corruption has not been removed, you are more or less giving room, you are giving what you want to remove from the other person, you are still giving it back to him because corruption has not been removed. So the first thing to remove is corruption, not subsidy. That's the way I see it. And if you look back, what NLC said then, that was, I think, when President former President Jonathan wanted to remove a subsidy. What NLC was saying then was that until we remove subsidy, we should put things in place that will shut up the effect of the removal of subsidy. So, because the thing is that with the money we have, we have not been able to use it well. That is government now, has not been able to use it well. If we remove subsidy and we still give the money of subsidy back to government, how are we sure that government is going to manage it very well? So that's the fear of many of us.
But is there any society in the world that has effectively removed corruption from its system? Is there any country on planet Earth that has done away with corruption?
Can you point at China and say, well, there's this particular area that corruption in government is, causing problems and making it uncomfortable to run its system? Those are some of the things you
Barrister, I'm surprised you're saying that. China is coming to Africa in all kinds of ways. Isn't that corruption? Because that corruption is beneficial to that country. Okay, it's not considered corruption.
Well, you could look at it as doing business under the spirit of aggression and all that. But that's external. We're talking about how China and its people feel with regards to how their system is being run.
Okay.
That is the challenge now. And I think that's what we're looking at.
All right. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I am Franklin calling from Hospital Road.
You're welcome.
Thank you. There is no way that subsidy can be removed in Nigeria. Why do I say so? This present government in 2011 make a statement that subsidy is a corruption. They played it over radio, over TV about 3 days ago. When Buhari make that statement, say there is no need subsidy to be paid, that it is corruption. Then when Goodluck did this thing, because that time Goodluck was in power, that is why he made that statement. When he came to the defeat, it is the world. It is the president, it is the Minister of Petroleum. It is Commander-in-Chief. It is everything. And the subsidy is still going on. So I don't think we, the Nigerians, we can't do anything. The Labour too cannot do anything again because maybe they are afraid of the man. I cannot tell. If not, what they did that during the time of Goodluck, they could have done it. And now, gradually, the pump price is going up. And they are denying that the pump price is still the same thing for 145. And they promise that since the subsidy was not there, the pump price will come down to whether 45 naira before. blame who? Who is now the person who is corrupt? That is my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Are Nigerians afraid of the person of the president?
Well, I wouldn't want to think so, frankly. I don't think we Nigerians are afraid of the man. Perhaps we do not have, the means and what is needed for us to successfully challenge, the status quo that we have now. And I think it's partly tied to the fact that even the man has his base, his supporters, perhaps who would want, to prevent this fighting quote, against the challenge. Now, look at what's been happening. The structures that we have now, particularly the National Assembly, is now more populated by persons that are under its canopy and all that. And so, it's definitely going to be a little more difficult. But I don't think it's tied to fear.
But the decision to remove subsidies yet to be taken, when eventually taken, and taken in the way akin to the last, the way it was taken under good luck, do you expect Nigerians to come to the streets?
Well, given what we have now, there could be pockets of protest and all that. I don't want to sound like I'm a clairvoyant. I'm not. I'm just an ordinary person using my faculties to imagine what could be.
Okay.
Definitely, there could be pockets of criticism and protests here and there. It's possible for that to happen.
Okay.
But how far that will go, I can't tell. But I know for sure that an abrupt removal of the subsidy program will definitely attract reactions by way of protests and all that from Nigerians. I'm so sure of that.
All right. Your calls still expected. I've got two messages here. Okay, just before I take them, let's take this call. Hello.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
This is Honorable Agenda Gospel according from Jobo.
You're welcome.
That issue, that's something we have discussed this morning. In fact, it's a very important topic. And what the last corner has just said is the truth of the matter. Because when Buddha was here, you see that many, what we call them, journalists, other known as organizations in the Abuja, we are coming out. See, we are all of us, we are afraid of the man. That is the problem we are facing in this country today. Look at what is happening in the judiciary. Look at what is happening there. How many judges, how many barristers, how many staff has come out for protest when they suspended the chief judge of this country? See what is happening now. Is it so the man is fighting the battle? No. No judges is assisting him. Nobody. The man is fighting the battle alone. And we are afraid of him that we fight us with Jesus. Okay. We are arrest us.
All right.
That is the problem.
Thank you. Appreciate
it. See, if Buhari remove fuel subsidy, and my brother, nobody will come out. Nobody will come out for protest.
It's okay. It's okay.
I will win.
I think it needs to be informed that the NBA embarked on a two-day court boycott and condemned the suspension of the CJN.
Okay, when that happens.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. 2 minutes to 8, top of the hour. We'll take news around the world. When we come back, we'll spend 10 good minutes to taking your calls. All right. Okay. We'll be rounding things up here. And so if you've got... honestly, we've got no time here, and so let me read out these messages. Hello, fuel subsidy can be removed if only our refineries are working optimally in good terms, but the government should consider the common man first before taking any action as regards the removal of fuel subsidy from Ebitimi in Akenfa. I wish everyone out there a memorable Easter celebration. It is ironical to state that Nigeria, with a huge oil and gas deposit, is talking about subsidy instead of refineries. To refine the crude and convert the gas endowments to energy, the pertinent question to ask here is, if other refinery owners had been careless like Nigeria, who could not manage 4 refineries efficiently, where would we have refined our crude deposits? We should remove every bureaucratic hiccups that have delayed the takeoff of the modular refineries to enable other stakeholders to refine our crude and gas here in Nigeria, to cut down cost or the subsidy cartel. Commentary Obe from a Managbini community, Kermology. Barrister, I'd like you to draw your conclusion, and we'll bring the discussion to a close this morning.
Well, the people have spoken, and let's not be too pessimistic with regards to the future of this country. There's a lot that you and I can do, beginning with speaking against what is wrong, and thereafter the actions. And then, when things change for good, we all will benefit from it. Let's not lose hope.
And that's that. And to this edition of the program, the debate, continuation of the debate on fuel subsidy removal, the political perspective. My guest was Barrister Stanley Damabide, a lawyer based in Yenagoa. And to you who called in and sent in messages, you added that stuff this program is always made of. And so I appreciate your contributions to the show as well. And then the team this morning, Nimbofa John as well as Degama Jarul. From all of us, it's good morning.
All you good.